The trading post at Fort Verde smelled of leather, tobacco, and desperation. Ayana pressed herself against the rough wooden wall, her fingers trembling as they closed around the silver pendant at her throat, the last piece of her mother's memory. 3 days without food had turned her legs to water and her vision to swimming shadows. The white settlers gave her wide berth, their eyes sliding past her Apache features as if she were a ghost. She had walked 40 miles from the reservation after her uncle tried to sell her to a Mexican trader for 3 horses and a rifle. The bruises on her wrists still bloomed purple beneath her torn cotton sleeves. "Please," she whispered to the shopkeeper, holding out the pendant. "Just bread, anything." The man barely glanced up. "No credit for Indians. Move along." Before we continue with Ayana's journey, I want to ask you something important. If you're enjoying this story, would you take just a moment to subscribe to the From Wild West channel and leave a like? It truly means everything to us and motivates our team to keep creating quality content like this for you. Your support helps us bring more untold stories from the frontier to life. Thank you so much. Now, back to our story. The words hit her like stones. Ayana's knees buckled, and she caught herself on a barrel of dried beans. The room tilted. This was how it would end. Collapsed on the floor of a trading post, another forgotten Apache girl who couldn't adapt to the white man's world. The voice cut through the murmur of the trading post like a knife through canvas. Deep, certain, completely unimpressed. Ayana's head snapped up. A man stood in the doorway, backlit by the fierce Arizona sun, his silhouette broad-shouldered and still. As you stepped inside, details emerged. A cowboy, maybe 30 years old, with sun-weathered skin and eyes the color of creek water after rain. Dust covered his leather vest and worn denim. A Colt revolver sat easy on his hip, but his hands hung loose at his sides, the hands of a man who didn't need to prove anything. "Mr. Holloway," the shopkeeper stammered, You were just about to give this young woman some food. It wasn't a question." The cowboy, Holloway, moved to the counter with the rolling gait of someone who'd spent more time on horseback than on foot. He dropped coins on the wood with deliberate clinks. "Bread, dried beef, beans, canteen of clean water. That's mighty generous for a human being who's hungry?" Holloway's jaw tightened. "Yeah, real generous of me." Ayana watched, frozen, as the shopkeeper hurriedly assembled supplies. Her survival instincts screamed that this was a trap. That kindness always had a price. Men didn't help Apache girls without wanting something. When Holloway turned to her, she flinched, but he simply held out the bundled supplies, his gaze steady and strangely sad. "You don't have to trade your mother's necklace for food, miss. Not today." Her throat closed. "How did you? Saw you holding it like it was the only real thing left in the world." He gestured to the door. "My ranch is 2 hours north. I need help with cooking and mending. Room in the bunkhouse, fair wages, no strings." He paused, and something flickered in those watercolored eyes. "You run from something or towards something?" "Away," she whispered. "Good enough." He tipped his hat. "Name's Cole Holloway. I'm short-handed since my housekeeper passed, and I can't cook worth a damn. You interested in honest work?" Ayana stared at him, searching for the lie, the hidden cruelty, but his face showed only exhaustion and something deeper, a loneliness that matched her own. "Why?" The words scraped out. "Why help me?" Cole's expression softened. "Because somebody should have helped me once, and nobody did. Because you're standing here with your mother's necklace in your hand, and that tells me everything I need to know about your character. He shifted the supplies toward her. Because gold and silver aren't what matter on a ranch. Good people are, and I'm betting you're good people. The trading post had gone silent. Every white face watched, with expressions ranging from disgust to curiosity. Ayana's legs trembled, but she forced herself to stand straight. Her mother had been a healer, respected among their people before the soldiers came. She had taught Ayana that dignity was something no one could take unless you surrendered it. I can work hard, Mr. Holloway. Cole, just Cole. He held out his hand, not to take hers, but palm up, offering, "Can you ride?" "No, sir. We'll fix that." A ghost of a smile touched his weathered face. "Can you shoot?" "No, sir. We'll fix that too." He nodded toward the door. "My horse is outside. You can ride behind me to the ranch, or I can arrange for a wagon. Your choice." Her choice. When had anyone last given her a choice? "The horse is fine," she said quietly, accepting the supplies. As her fingers brushed his palm, she felt calluses earned through work, not cruelty. "Thank you, Cole. Thank me when you've tasted my coffee and decided I'm worth working for." He led her outside into the blazing afternoon sun. His horse was a massive bay gelding with intelligent eyes. Cole mounted with fluid grace, then reached down. "Put your foot on my boot and grab my arm. I'll pull you up." Ayana hesitated only a moment before obeying. His grip was strong but careful, and suddenly she was seated behind him on the horse, the bundled supplies clutched against her chest. "Hold on to my belt," Cole instructed. "Buck here doesn't spook easy, but he's got opinions about prairie dogs." As they rode out of Fort Verde, Ayana glanced back once at the trading post, at the life she was leaving behind. Then she fixed her eyes forward, toward the mountains rising purple and gold in the distance, toward whatever this strange cowboy's ranch held. The pendant still hung cool against her heart, no longer a commodity to be traded, but a memory she could keep. The Holloway Ranch sprawled across a valley where Broken Creek cut through red rock and scrub brush, the water still running despite the summer heat. The main house was modest, adobe and rough timber, built for function rather than show. A barn, corral, and two smaller outbuildings completed the compound. Cattle dotted the distant hills like brown and white stones. "It's not much," Cole said as he dismounted, then helped Ayana down. "But it's honest land." To Ayana, who'd spent the last year in a cramped reservation tent, it looked like a kingdom. Cole showed her to the bunkhouse, a clean, simple room with a cot, a trunk, and a small window overlooking the creek. "You'll have privacy here. I sleep in the main house. There are two ranch hands, Miguel and Tommy, but they're driving cattle to Prescott. Won't be back for a week." He stood in the doorway, respectful of the threshold. "Rules are simple. Do your work, don't steal, and if you need to leave, you leave. No one will stop you or come after you. You're free here, Ayana. That's the only thing I insist on." She set down the supplies carefully. "How do you know my name? I didn't tell you." "You didn't, but I heard it in how you moved. Quiet, like you were named for something that couldn't be caught." He smiled slightly. "Am I close?" Ayana means eternal blossom in my language. She met his eyes. "My mother gave it to me. She said I was born during a spring that wouldn't end." Beautiful name for a beautiful meaning. There was no flirtation in his tone, only respect. Supper's in an hour. Come to the house when you're settled. And Diana? He paused. Welcome home. After he left, Ayana sat on the cot and cried for the first time since her mother's death. The kitchen smelled of burned coffee and ambition. Cole stood over a cast-iron skillet, scowling at eggs that had somehow become rubber. Please tell me you know what you're doing, he said when Ayana appeared in the doorway. 'Cause I sure as hell don't. Despite everything, she almost smiled. Move, please. He stepped aside gratefully, and Ayana took over. Her mother had taught her to cook over open fires with whatever ingredients the land provided. Cole's well-stocked kitchen felt like luxury. Within 20 minutes, she'd salvaged the eggs, made fresh biscuits, and created a simple stew from dried beef and vegetables. Cole ate like a man who'd forgotten food could taste good. Lord have mercy, he muttered around a mouthful of biscuit. Where'd you learn to cook like this? My mother. She said a woman who can feed her family can survive anything. Smart woman. She was. Ayana kept her eyes on her plate. Until the soldiers came. Until the fever took the ones who survived. The kitchen fell quiet, except for the crackle of the fire. Finally, Cole spoke, his voice low and rough. I lost my wife 2 years ago. Childbirth. The baby didn't make it either. He stared at his coffee cup. I promised myself I'd never care about anything again. Just work the ranch, keep my head down, survive. But that's not living. That's just waiting to die. Ayana looked up, startled by his honesty. I'm telling you this, Cole continued, because I want you to understand. I'm not looking for anything from you except help keeping this place running. Whatever you're healing from, you'll do it on your own time, in your own way. I won't push, I won't pry, but I won't pretend we're strangers either. Why not? She whispered. Because strangers don't see each other. And I see you, Ayana. I see a woman who walked 40 miles through Apache land and white territory to escape something worse than death. I see someone who'd rather starve than lose her mother's memory. That takes a kind of strength most people never find. His words hit her chest like physical things. No one had seen her, truly seen her, since her mother died. She'd been a problem, a commodity, a burden, never a person. I see you too, she said quietly. I see a man who helps strangers, even though it hurts to care. Cole's jaw worked. He stood abruptly, collecting plates. Get some rest. Tomorrow I'll teach you to ride. Can't have you stranded here if you need to leave. What if I don't want to leave? He paused at the wash basin, his broad shoulders tight. Then I'll teach you everything else too. How to shoot, how to read the weather, how to survive out here. He glanced back, and his eyes held something fierce and protective. Because you're not property, Ayana. You're a person. And you deserve to know you can take care of yourself. That night, lying in her bunk, Ayana touched her mother's pendant and thought about promises, about men who kept them, about what it might mean to trust again. Dawn painted the sky the color of rose petals and blood. Ayana woke to the sound of cattle lowing and the smell of coffee. Good coffee this time, which meant Cole had waited for her. He was in the corral when she emerged, working with a smaller horse, a dappled mare with gentle eyes. This is Sage, Cole said. She's patient with beginners. Won't throw you unless you do something truly stupid. Ayana approached cautiously. Horses had always frightened her, massive, unpredictable creatures. But Sage lowered her head and huffed softly, as if introducing herself. Put your hand here. Cole guided her palm to the mare's nose. Let her learn your scent. His hand covered hers briefly, warm, steady, gone before she could tense. Sage nuzzled her palm, and something inside Ayana's chest loosened. "She likes you," Cole observed. "Good instinct. Now let's see about getting you in the saddle." The first hour was awkward. Ayana's muscles protested the unfamiliar position, and she clung to the saddle horn like it was salvation. But Cole was patient, walking beside Sage, offering corrections without criticism. "Loosen your grip. The horse feels your fear. Breathe deep. That's it. You're not conquering her. You're becoming partners." By mid-morning, Ayana was walking Sage around the corral independently. The terror had transformed into something else. "Tomorrow we'll try a trot." "Today," Ayana countered, surprising herself. Cole's eyebrows rose. Then he grinned, a real smile that transformed his weathered face into something almost boyish. "All right then, today." The days developed a rhythm. Mornings were for riding lessons that progressed from trotting to cantering to navigating the rocky trails around the ranch. Ayana's body ached in new ways, but it was the ache of growth, not injury. Afternoons were for ranch work. Cole taught her to mend fences, check water sources, identify sick cattle. He explained the business side too: cattle prices, weather patterns, the delicate balance between survival and profit. "Why teach me all this?" she asked one sweltering afternoon, wiping sweat from her brow. "Because knowledge is freedom," Cole replied, hammering a post into sun-baked earth. "The more you know, the more choices you have." Evenings were for target practice. Cole set up bottles on fence posts and handed her a rifle. Not his Colt, which he wore like a part of his body, but a smaller Winchester carbine. "This kicks less," he explained. "Focus on your breathing. Squeeze the trigger. Don't pull." Ayana missed the first dozen shots, but she remembered her mother's teaching. Patience and practice transform inability into skill. On her 13th attempt, glass shattered. "There!" Cole's whoop of victory startled her. "You've got an eye, girl!" His enthusiasm was infectious. Ayana found herself laughing. Actually laughing for the first time in months. That night, as they cleaned the rifles on the porch, Cole said quietly, "You're different than when you arrived." "How?" "You stand straighter. Look people in the eye. You're not just surviving anymore." Ayana considered this. He was right. The constant fear had receded, replaced by something steadier. "I think I forgot who I was before everything happened. And now? Now I'm remembering." Cole nodded, his profile sharp against the sunset. "That's all any of us can do. Remember who we were. Decide who we'll become." A question burned in her throat, dangerous and necessary. "Who were you, Cole, before you lost them?" His hands stilled on the rifle. For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, happy. "I was happy and stupid enough to think it would last forever. Mary, my wife, she laughed at everything, made the hardest days feel like adventures." His voice roughened. "When she died, I died too. Kept walking and breathing, but inside, nothing. And now?" He looked at her then, really looked, and something passed between them, an understanding that transcended words. "Now I'm remembering too." The air felt thick with unspoken things. Ayana's heart hammered against her ribs. This was dangerous. This feeling that coiled in her chest whenever Cole smiled, whenever his hand steadied her in the saddle, whenever she caught him watching her with that expression she couldn't name. She stood abruptly. "I should sleep. Early start tomorrow. Ayana, good night, Cole." She fled to the bunkhouse, her pulse racing. Behind her, she heard him sigh, then the sound of his boots heading to the main house. In her cot, Ayanna pressed her hands to her chest and tried to calm her breathing. She couldn't do this. Couldn't let herself feel. Feeling meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant someone could hurt you. But as she drifted to sleep, her last thought was of Cole's smile when she'd hit that bottle. And despite her fear, she smiled too. The storm rolled in from the mountains like God's own fury. Black clouds bruised purple, lightning splitting the sky into jagged pieces. Cole frowned at the horizon as he helped Ayanna unsaddle Sage. "That's coming fast," he muttered. "Get inside. I need to secure the barn doors and check the cattle in the north pasture." "I'll help, Ayanna. I'll help," she repeated firmly. "You taught me to ride for situations exactly like this." Pride and concern warred in his expression. Pride won. "All right, but you stay close to me. These storms can turn deadly." They worked in synchronized silence. Cole's 2 weeks of teaching had made Ayanna competent, if not expert. They secured the barn, moved the horses to sheltered stalls, and rode out toward the nervous cattle. The wind hit like a physical force, carrying dust and the smell of rain. Thunder cracked so loud, Ayanna's teeth rattled. Sage danced sideways, but Ayanna held firm, remembering Cole's instructions. Calm the horse. Calm yourself. They found the cattle bunched together in a dry wash, the worst possible location if flash flooding started. "We need to move them to high ground," Cole shouted over the wind. "Push from the left side." Ayanna had never herded cattle, but instinct took over. She and Sage worked the left flank, while Cole took the right, driving the stubborn animals up the slope. Rain began in fat drops that quickly became sheets, turning the world into a gray blur. One calf stumbled, separated from its mother. Ayanna reacted without thinking, guiding Sage to cut off its escape route, pushing it back toward the herd. "Good!" Cole's shout was barely audible. "You're a natural cowgirl." They got the cattle to safety just as the wash behind them transformed into a roaring river. Ayanna stared at the churning water, her heart in her throat. Another 5 minutes, and they'd have been caught in that. Cole rode close, his face streaming with rain. "You all right?" "Yes." She was trembling but alive, more alive than she'd felt in years. "Let's get home before we drown on horseback." The ride back was harrowing. Lightning struck close enough that Ayanna felt her hair stand on end. Sage slipped on mud, nearly going down, but recovered. By the time they reached the ranch, both riders were soaked through and shaking. Cole swung down from Buck and reached for Ayanna. His hands closed around her waist, lifting her from the saddle. For a moment, they stood frozen in the pouring rain, his hands still on her waist, her palms on his shoulders. Water streamed down his face. His eyes held hers with an intensity that made breathing difficult. "You could have been killed," he said roughly. "I should never have let you." "You didn't let me. I chose." Ayanna's voice was steady, despite her trembling. "You said I was free to choose." "Damn right you are." His grip tightened fractionally. "But that doesn't mean I won't worry. Doesn't mean I don't—" He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "Don't what?" Lightning illuminated his face, throwing his features into sharp relief. "Doesn't mean I don't care what happens to you." The words hung between them, weighted with everything neither dared to say. Ayanna felt the warmth of his hands through her soaked shirt, felt her own hands slide from his shoulders to his chest, where his heart hammered against her palm. Cole. Thunder crashed directly overhead. The horses whinnied in alarm. The spell broke. "We need to get these horses settled," Cole said, his voice rough. He released her and grabbed both sets of reins. "Then dry clothes before we catch pneumonia." They worked in charged silence, rubbing down the horses, checking for injuries. When Ayanna reached to hang up a saddle, her muscles, pushed beyond their limit, finally gave out. She stumbled. Cole caught her before she fell, his arm around her waist. "Easy. You're exhausted." "I'm fine." "You're not, and that's all right." He guided her toward the barn door. "Go to the bunkhouse. I'll bring you dry clothes and something hot to drink. You need to change too." "I will, after I make sure you're taken care of." Something in his tone, protective but not possessive, concerned but respecting her autonomy, made her eyes sting with unexpected tears. "Why are you so kind to me?" Cole paused, his profile sharp in the dim barn light. "Because kindness is what you deserve. Because someone should have been kind to you long before I came along. And because, and because..." He turned to face her fully, his expression raw. "Because when I look at you, I don't just see someone who needs help. I see someone worth..." He stopped, shook his head. "Get inside, before you freeze." Ayanna wanted to push, to demand he finish that sentence, but exhaustion weighed on her like stones. She nodded and stumbled toward the bunkhouse. 10 minutes later, Cole knocked softly. When she opened the door, wrapped in a blanket, he held out a bundle of clean, dry clothes, men's shirts and trousers that would fit her slight frame better than the worn cotton dress she'd been living in. "Belonged to Tommy. He's smaller than me. Should work until we can get you proper clothes." He also held a steaming mug. Coffee with whiskey. Mary's recipe for not dying after being an idiot in a storm. Ayanna accepted both, their fingers brushing. Neither pulled away. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything. Thank you for trusting me enough to ride into that storm. Takes courage." His thumb ghosted across her knuckles, there and gone so fast she might have imagined it. "Sleep well, Ayanna." After he left, she changed into the dry clothes, drank the spiked coffee, and lay in her cot, listening to the rain drum on the roof. Her body was exhausted, but her mind spun with the memory of Cole's hands on her waist, the look in his eyes, the words he hadn't finished. Worth what? Worth saving? Worth caring about? Worth something more? She touched her mother's pendant and thought about risks, about trust, about the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, she was ready to try again. Miguel and Tommy returned from Prescott on a Tuesday, bringing supplies and news from town. Miguel was a weathered vaquero in his 50s with kind eyes. Tommy was barely 20, eager and reckless. Both stopped dead when they saw Ayanna cooking breakfast. "Boss?" Tommy's voice was uncertain. "You gotta, A cook who's worth her weight in gold," Cole said firmly from the doorway. "This is Ayanna. She's working the ranch. Anyone who has a problem with that can collect their pay and ride out." Miguel recovered first, removing his hat. "Nam, welcome. I'm Miguel and this fool is Tommy." "Hey," Tommy protested, but he grinned. "Nice to meet you, Miss Ayanna." "That bacon smells better than anything the boss ever made." Over breakfast, Miguel shared the Prescott gossip. Most of it was harmless. Who was courting whom, cattle prices, weather predictions. But one piece of news made Ayanna's blood run cold. "There's a Mexican trader asking around about a missing Apache girl," Miguel said carefully, watching Ayanna's face. "Offering a reward. Says she's his property. That her family sold her fair and square." The coffee cup slipped from Ayana's fingers, shattering on the floor. Easy. Cole was beside her instantly, his hand on her shoulder. Miguel, what's this traitor's name? Vicente Ruiz. Mean son of a... Miguel glanced at Ayana, uncomfortable. For buying young girls. He's staying at the Silver Dollar Hotel, making noise about theft and savages. Cole's jaw tightened until Ayana could see the muscle jumping. He comes anywhere near this ranch. You shoot first and ask questions after. That clear? Boss, an order. Cole's voice was hard as iron. This woman is under my protection. Anyone who tries to take her will have to go through me. Ayana stood on shaking legs. I should leave. I'm putting you all in danger. Sit down, Cole said quietly. When she hesitated, he added, please. She sat. Tommy and Miguel exchanged glances but said nothing. Cole knelt before her chair, his face level with hers. Listen to me. You're not going anywhere unless you choose to. Not because of some bastard traitor, not because of fear. You understand? He has papers. My uncle signed them. I don't give a damn what papers he has. You're not property. You never were. Cole's hands closed over hers, warm and steady. And I swear to God, Ayana, he'll have to kill me before he lays a hand on you. The fierceness in his eyes took her breath away. This wasn't just kindness or duty. This was something deeper, something that both terrified and thrilled her. Why? She whispered. Why risk everything for me? Cole's gaze never wavered. Because you matter. Because in 2 weeks, you've brought this place back to life in ways I didn't know were possible. Because when I look at you, I see, he stopped. Awareness of his audience flickering across his face. He stood abruptly. Miguel, I need you and Tommy to watch the property borders. Anyone unfamiliar comes near, you let me know. What are you gonna do, boss? Tommy asked. I'm riding into town to have a conversation with Mr. Ruiz. Cole's hand dropped to his Colt, a gesture so natural he probably didn't realize he'd done it. Cole, no. Ayana stood, her heart hammering. He's dangerous. He has men. So do I. He nodded to Miguel and Tommy. And I'm not letting him terrorize you. This ends today. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. It's my life. The words burst out louder than she intended. My choice, remember? You said I was free. That means free to stand up for myself too. Cole stared at her, frustration and admiration warring in his expression. Finally, he sighed. You stay behind me. You do exactly what I say. And if shooting starts, you get to cover. Agreed? Agreed. Lord help me, Cole muttered. I'm going to regret this. But as they prepared to ride to town, Ayana saw something else in his eyes. Respect. She was no longer just someone to protect. She was becoming a partner. Fort Verde was busier than Ayana remembered, the streets crowded with miners, soldiers, and settlers. She rode Sage close to Buck, her heart in her throat, but her spine straight. The Silver Dollar Hotel was a 2-story affair that had seen better days. Cole dismounted and helped Ayana down, his hand lingering on her waist. Last chance to wait outside, he said quietly. No. He smiled despite the tension. Stubborn woman. You have no idea. The hotel lobby smelled of cigar smoke and stale whiskey. A clerk behind the desk looked up nervously as Cole approached. Ayana at his side. Vicente Ruiz, what room? Sir, I can't. Cole leaned on the desk, his presence suddenly dangerous. What room? 7. Upstairs. They climbed the creaking stairs. Ayana's pulse thundering. At room 7, Cole knocked once, sharp, commanding. The door opened to reveal a man in his 40s, well-dressed, but with cruel eyes. Vicente Ruiz's gaze slid past Cole to Ayana, and his face split into a predatory smile. "There you are, little bird. I've been searching everywhere." "She's not going anywhere with you," Cole said flatly. Vicente's smile didn't waver. "You must be the fool rancher. I have documentation of sale. The girl is my property. Return her, and I'll forget your interference." "She's not property. She's a person, and she stays with me." "The law disagrees, senor, but I'm a reasonable man." Vicente's eyes crawled over Ayana in a way that made her skin crawl. "I paid 3 horses and a rifle. Return my investment plus interest, say $200, and we have no problem." "Or," Cole said, his voice dropping to something deadly, You come near Miss Ayana again, you send your men near her, you even speak her name in this town, and I'll make sure you regret it. I'm a patient man, Mr. Ruiz, but I'm also a man who keeps his promises." For a long moment, the two men stared at each other. Ayana held her breath, her hand moving instinctively to the knife Cole had given her for ranch work. Then Vicente laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. The challenge hung in the air like gun smoke. Vicente's hand twitched toward the pistol at his belt. Cole didn't move, but something in his stillness, the coiled readiness of a man who'd faced death before, made Vicente hesitate. "This isn't over," Vicente finally said. "Yes, it is." Cole took a step forward, and Vicente instinctively backed into his room. "You have until sundown to leave Fort Verde. After that, you're fair game. And Mr. Ruiz, I'm not the only rancher who knows what you do. Cross me, and you'll have every decent man in this territory hunting you." Cole took Ayana's arm gently and guided her toward the stairs. They descended in tense silence, every muscle in Ayana's body screaming to run. Only when they were back on the street did she let out the breath she'd been holding. "Will he listen?" she asked. "For now, men like Ruiz are cowards at heart. They prey on the powerless. But we'll need to be careful." Cole helped her mount Sage, his hands steady despite the confrontation. "You're not powerless anymore, Ayana. You can ride, shoot, and you've got people who stand with you. People like you, especially like me." His eyes held hers, intense and unwavering. "I meant what I said in there. He'll have to go through me." They rode out of town side by side, and despite the danger, despite everything, Ayana felt something unfamiliar blooming in her chest. Hope. The ranch settled into uneasy vigilance. Miguel and Tommy took turns on watch. Cole taught Ayana to shoot the Colt revolver, not just the rifle. Her hands were too small for his gun, so he ordered a smaller model from the Prescott gunsmith. "Every woman on the frontier should know how to defend herself," he said, watching her practice. "You've got steady hands. That's half the battle." 2 weeks passed, with no sign of Vicente Ruiz. Ayana began to relax, to believe maybe the threat had passed. Then came the night that changed everything. Cole found her by the creek after supper, skipping stones across the water. The sunset painted everything gold and crimson. "You all right?" he asked, settling onto a boulder nearby. "Just thinking." "About?" Ayana hesitated, then decided honesty was the only way forward. "About how different my life is now. A month ago, I thought I'd die on that reservation. Or worse. Now I'm learning to shoot, riding horses, sleeping without nightmares. You still have them? The nightmares? She nodded. Not as often, but yes. Cole was quiet for a moment. I have them too. I see Mary in the birthing bed, bleeding. I hear the baby's cry that lasted only seconds. Some nights, I wake up reaching for them, and the emptiness is... He stopped, his voice rough. I'm sorry, Ayanna whispered. Don't be. Pain is part of loving someone. I'd rather have the pain and the memories than never have had her at all. He turned to her, his eyes reflecting the sunset. But I'm learning that grief doesn't have to be the end of the story. That maybe there's room for new chapters. Ayanna's heart hammered. What kind of chapters? Cole stood and moved closer, his boots crunching on creek stones. He stopped just in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. The kind where I don't spend every evening wondering if you're warm enough, safe enough, happy enough. His voice was low, intense. The kind where I stop lying to myself about why my chest gets tight when you smile. Why I volunteer to teach you things just to spend more time near you. Why the thought of Vicente Ruiz touching you makes me want to commit murder. Cole, I know it's too soon. I know you've been through hell. I know I swore I'd never care about anyone again. His hand lifted, hesitated, then gently cupped her cheek. But damn it, Ayanna, I look at you and I see hope. I see tomorrow. I see everything I thought I'd lost. She couldn't breathe. His thumb stroked her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. Tell me to stop, he whispered. Tell me I'm a fool, and I'll never mention it again. We'll just be employer and employee, nothing more. Ayanna's hand rose, covering his where it rested on her face. And if I don't want you to stop? The raw hope that flashed across his face made her chest ache. I'm afraid, she admitted. My uncle sold me. The tribe couldn't protect me. Everyone I've ever trusted has hurt me or left. What if you... I won't. The certainty in his voice was absolute. Ayanna, I'm not perfect. I'm stubborn. I work too hard, and I'm not good with fancy words. But I swear on Mary's grave, on this land, on everything I hold sacred, I will never hurt you. I'll die before I hurt you. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Cole's thumb caught them, wiping them away with heartbreaking tenderness. You don't have to decide anything tonight, he said softly. I just needed you to know. Needed to stop pretending that you're just my cook, just someone I'm helping. You're more. So much more. Ayanna rose onto her toes, her free hand gripping his shirt for balance. She brought her face close to his, their breath mingling. I'm afraid, she repeated. But I think I'm ready to be brave. Cole's arms slid around her waist, supporting her. Tell me what you need. We'll go as slow as you want. No pressure, no expectations. I need... She searched for words, found them in her mother's teachings. I need to know that touching doesn't always mean taking, that wanting doesn't always end in pain. Then that's what I'll show you. His forehead touched hers, gentle as prayer. Together, together, she whispered. He kissed her then, soft and asking, nothing demanded. His lips brushed hers once, twice, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she didn't, when her hand slid up to his neck and pulled him closer, the kiss deepened. It was nothing like the forced brutality of her uncle's violence or Vicente's predatory touch. This was giving and receiving in equal measure, a conversation without words. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cole rested his forehead against hers. Been wanting to do that since the day I saw you in that trading post, he admitted roughly. Why didn't you? Because you needed to heal first. needed to find your strength." He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And because I'm a coward, terrified you'd run if I told you the truth. I might have, a month ago." Ayana's hands spread across his chest, feeling his heartbeat hammer beneath her palms. "But you taught me I'm stronger than I thought, that I deserve to choose. You deserve everything good in this world." They stood in the fading light, holding each other, neither willing to break the spell. Finally, reluctantly, Cole stepped back. "I should let you rest. It's late." "Or," Ayana said, surprising herself with her boldness, "you can stay. Just sit with me, talk." His smile was brilliant. "I'd like that." They settled on the creek bank, close enough that their shoulders touched. Cole pointed out constellations, told her stories about his childhood in Texas, about building this ranch from nothing. Ayana shared memories of her mother, of Apache traditions, of the life she'd lost. Somewhere in the stories, Ayana's head found its way to Cole's shoulder. His arm circled her waist, protective and warm. "This is the best night I've had in 2 years," Cole murmured into her hair. "For me, it's the best night of my life," Ayana replied. They stayed there until the stars wheeled overhead. Two broken people finding wholeness in each other. When Cole finally walked her to the bunkhouse, he kissed her forehead, a promise and a good night. "Sleep well, Ayana." "You too, Cole." But neither of them slept much, minds replaying every word, every touch, every possibility of what came next. The attack came 3 nights later, in the darkest hour before dawn. Ayana woke to the sound of breaking glass and men's shouts. She grabbed the Colt from her bedside. Cole had insisted she keep it loaded, and crept to the window. 4 riders surrounded the main house, torches blazing. Vicente Ruiz sat his horse in the center, his face a mask of fury. "Holloway, send out the girl, or we burn you out." Ice flooded Ayana's veins. This was her fault. Cole would die defending her, and it would be because she'd been too weak to run. She was pulling on boots when her door crashed open. Cole stood there, rifle in hand, his face grim. "Get to the barn. Miguel's there with the horses. If I don't come out, you ride for Fort Verde. Don't stop. Don't look back." "No." Ayana leveled the Colt at him, not threatening, but showing. "I'm not running, not anymore." "Ayana, you said I was free to choose. I choose to stand with you." Another shout from outside. 10 seconds, Holloway. Then we start shooting." Cole's jaw tightened. Then, incredibly, he smiled. "You're going to get us both killed with that stubborn streak." "Probably." "All right. But you stay behind cover. You shoot only if you have a clear target. And Ayana?" His free hand cupped her face. "If I don't make it, you tell anyone who'll listen that I died happy. Because I did. You made me happy." "Tell them yourself," she said fiercely, "because we're both walking out of this." They moved through the house, meeting Miguel and Tommy at the back door. Outside, Vicente was still shouting threats. "Miguel, Tommy, take the barn. Pick off anyone who gets close to the horses." Cole glanced at Ayana. "We'll hold the house. Force them to come in after us, where the odds are better." "Boss," Tommy said nervously, "there's only 4 of us and 5 of them." "Then we'll have to be smarter than they are." Cole checked his Colt, his movements efficient and calm. "Aim true. Stay alive. Let's show these bastards what happens when they threaten family." The word family hung in the air. Tommy and Miguel nodded. Ayana's throat tightened. "Go!" Cole barked. Miguel and Tommy slipped out toward the barn. Cole positioned Ayanna at a window overlooking the front yard, taking the window opposite. When I give the signal, we light them up. Don't aim to kill unless you have to. I don't want the law crawling up our necks. But make it hurt. Time's up, Holloway, Vicente shouted. Last chance, Cole called back, his voice carrying authority and contempt. You want her? Come and get her. But you better bring more men, because these 4 cowards aren't enough. The taunt worked. Vicente's face purpled with rage. Burn them out. One of the riders dismounted with a torch, advancing toward the house. Cole sighted down his rifle. Wait for it, he murmured. Wait. The man reached the porch. Cole fired. The bullet struck the torch, sending it flying. The man yelped and dove for cover. Now, Cole barked. Ayanna fired, her bullet punching through the darkness. She didn't hit anyone, but she came close enough to send the riders scrambling. From the barn, Miguel's rifle cracked, and one of Vicente's men went down clutching his leg. Chaos erupted. The attackers scattered, seeking cover behind water troughs and fence posts. Return fire shattered windows, sending glass raining down. Cole worked his rifle with deadly precision. 3 shots. 2 hits, both non-lethal but incapacitating. Ayanna fired methodically, remembering his training. Breathe, aim, squeeze. Her 4th shot found a target. One of Vicente's men dropped his gun with a howl, clutching his shoulder. Good shot, Cole shouted. Then everything went wrong. Tommy's yell of pain echoed from the barn. Miguel returned fire frantically, but they were pinned down. Vicente and his remaining man advanced on the house, using the darkness as cover. They're flanking. Cole's eyes were wild. I'm going out. You hold this window. Cole, no. He was already moving, crashing through the back door. Ayanna heard his boots pounding across the yard, heard his colt bark, once, twice. A scream that wasn't Cole's. Then silence. Cole? Ayanna's voice cracked. Cole! No answer. Terror like she'd never known flooded through her. She'd lost too many people. Her mother, her tribe, her identity. She couldn't lose him. Wouldn't. Ayanna grabbed the rifle and ran. The yard was a hellscape of shadows and smoke. She found Cole grappling with Vicente Ruiz near the barn, both men's guns lost in the dirt. Vicente had a knife. He was bigger, heavier, and he was winning. Ayanna didn't think. She raised the rifle and fired into the air. Both men froze. Get away from him, she said, her voice deadly calm. Vicente laughed, pressing his advantage. Or what, little bird? You going to shoot me? You don't have the spine. She fired again, this time close enough that the bullet kicked up dust at Vicente's feet. The next one goes through your skull, Ayanna said flatly. Get away from him. Something in her tone, the absolute certainty, the lack of fear, made Vicente hesitate. Cole used the distraction to land a devastating punch to Vicente's gut, then his jaw. The traitor went down hard. Cole stood, breathing heavily, and retrieved his Colt. He leveled it at Vicente's head. You were warned, he said simply. Wait! Vicente's hands went up. Don't kill me. I'll leave. I swear. You swear? Cole's laugh was harsh. Like you swore you were a legitimate traitor? Like you swore those girls you trafficked were willing? Cole. Ayanna stepped beside him, her hand on his arm. She could feel the fury vibrating through him. He's not worth it. Let the law have him. The law doesn't give a damn about Apache girls or Mexican traders. Maybe not, but I do. She moved to stand between Cole and Vicente, trusting him not to fire. And I say he doesn't get the quick way out. He goes to trial. He answers for every girl he's bought and sold. He suffers. Cole stared at her, then at Vicente, then slowly lowered his gun. You're too good for this world, Ayana. No, I just learned from the best. She turned to Vicente, who was trying to crawl away. You go to Fort Verde. You turn yourself in. If you don't, if you run, Cole won't stop me from hunting you down. And I'm Apache. We know how to track. Vicente's face went white. He nodded frantically. By dawn, it was over. Vicente and his surviving men were bound and headed to Fort Verde under Miguel's guard. Tommy had a flesh wound, but would recover. The ranch was battered, but standing. And Ayana sat on the porch steps, shaking as the adrenaline faded, while Cole tended to a cut on his temple. You could have died, she whispered. So could you, and you ran into gunfire anyway. He cupped her face with his battered hands. You terrified me. Good. Now you know how I felt. Stubborn, reckless woman. Stubborn, reckless man. They stared at each other, then simultaneously started laughing. The wild, relieved laughter of people who'd survived the impossible. Cole pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. When I couldn't answer you, when Vicente had me down, all I could think was that I never told you. Don't. His eyes searched hers. Then he smiled, that rare, brilliant smile that transformed him. I love you, Ayana. I love your courage, your strength, your stubborn determination to stand when anyone else would run. I love who I am when I'm with you. And if you'll have me, I want to spend every day proving that love is real, that it's worth fighting for. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you too. You taught me I was worth saving, that I could be whole again. You gave me freedom and then showed me what to do with it. Cole kissed her then, deep and sure, a promise and a claim, and a celebration all at once. When they broke apart, both grinning, the sun was rising over the mountains, painting everything gold. Marry me, Cole said. It wasn't a question. It was hope laid bare. Ayana pretended to consider. Will I have to keep cooking? Absolutely. I'll starve otherwise. And you'll keep teaching me to shoot? Until you're better than me, which given your progress, won't take long. Then yes, she kissed him again. Softer this time. Yes, I'll marry you, Cole Holloway, on one condition. Name it. We build a life together. Not you saving me, not me depending on you. Equal partners. Deal. His arms tightened around her. God, Ayana, I never thought I'd be this happy again. Me neither, but here we are. Here we are, he echoed. Together. Together. They sat on the porch steps as the ranch woke around them. Two people who'd found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk into the light. Together. 1 year later, the wedding was simple. A circuit preacher, Miguel and Tommy as witnesses, and a handful of neighboring ranchers who'd heard about the Apache girl who could outshoot most men, and the cowboy who'd fought off Vicente Ruiz's men. Ayana wore a dress made by a Prescott seamstress. Simple white cotton with Apache beadwork at the collar. Her mother's pattern, recreated from memory. Cole wore his best shirt and looked like he might cry. They said their vows under the cottonwood tree by the creek where they'd first confessed their love. When the preacher pronounced them married, Cole kissed her like she was air, and he'd been drowning. "Mrs. Holloway," he murmured against her lips. "Mrs. Holloway," she agreed, smiling. The ranch prospered. Ayana's cooking became legend in the territory, and Miguel joked that cowboys applied to work there more for her meals than the wages. She also became known for her skill with horses, the gentle Apache methods she'd learned from her mother, adapted for ranch work. Cole expanded the herd, built a second barn, and surprised Ayana on their 6-month anniversary with a mare, Sage's daughter, that he'd trained himself. "For when we teach our children to ride," he said, and Ayana's breath caught at the casual certainty that there would be children, that there would be a future. They'd argued, of course. Both were too stubborn to avoid conflict, but they learned to fight fair, to apologize, to choose each other, even in anger. On their first anniversary, Cole found Ayana at the creek, skipping stones. "Thinking about something?" he asked, settling beside her. "About how different everything is. About how a year ago, I was ready to trade my mother's necklace for bread. About how I almost gave up." Cole's arm circled her waist, pulling her close. And now? She turned in his embrace, her hands resting over his heart. "Now I have a home, a husband who sees me as an equal, a life I chose." She smiled. "Now I have everything." "Not everything." Cole's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Oh, what am I missing?" He placed her hand on her belly, still flat, but not for long. "This. Miguel's wife confirmed it yesterday. She said you probably know already." Ayana stared at him, then at her stomach, then back at his face. Joy and terror warred inside her. I wondered, but I was afraid to hope. "Hope away." Cole's voice was thick with emotion. "We're having a baby, Ayana. Our baby." She kissed him fiercely, laughing and crying at once. "I'm scared." "So am I. But we'll face it together." "Together," she agreed. As the sun set over Broken Creek Ranch, painting the sky in shades of promise, Cole and Ayana stood in the place where they'd both learned to live again. Two broken people who'd become whole. Two survivors who'd found home. Two hearts that beat as one. Together. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale from. Are you listening at home, during your commute, or perhaps while working? Please subscribe to the From Wild West channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Cole and Ayana's journey? Your feedback means the world to us.